Howdy, everybody, and welcome to the TexAgs High School Football Show, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy has all your high school football road trip needs this season. Get the right gear for the long season with free curbside pickup today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the TexAgs High School Football Show, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Don't forget, you can enter for your chance to win a $10,000 Academy gift card plus SEC championship game tickets just by signing into the Academy app. The ultimate SEC football sweepstakes runs from October 8th to November 18th. No purchase necessary. Odds depend on when the entries are received. Again, that ends on November 18th. You can find the complete set of rules at academy.com/official-rules. Jason, really interesting week on the high school football gridiron. We are getting down to the nitty-gritty and really close to playoff time. A lot of district races being decided, a lot of them already decided in terms of locking up playoff spots and playoff berths. So we'll start with you like we always do in Dallas. What'd you see last week? Well, I guess you weren't in Dallas, right?
No, I was out east, out in Shreveport, Louisiana, checking out Evangel Christian, getting a good look at Gabe Relaford, and he did not disappoint. Big 56-0 win over Minden. They were up 35-0 after the first quarter, and the running clock started pretty quickly after that.
That's good for you.
Defensive touchdowns in the first half for Evangel Christian, and I was out of the stadium with interviews done by 9:30.
Wow.
That's a pretty crazy night. But Gabe, I mean, he lived up to the billing. You had Coach Robinson there in the building, looking on for a little bit. He watched as Gabe went through pregame and watched the game a little bit. But he's so explosive and powerful, and you see the way he bends coming off the edge. He was all over the place and on some tackles, lots of pressure in the backfield. He had a big pressure that led to a pick six. He definitely delivered the goods on the night. But in Dallas, I mean, there were plenty of big scores. I tell you what, one that really hit home for me, Aledo got tested this week.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty, I could not believe that they have just been blasting people.
Well, Denton Ryan's always strong. And I saw them earlier this year, and they got beat by the Colony. But they also beat themselves in a lot of ways. They made a lot of mistakes that game, and the Colony made them pay for it. But Denton Ryan has as stout a defense as you'll find. They're very aggressive, and if they can get you on your heels, that offense can take advantage. They've got two tackles that are going to be up there with any in the state, and Ty Haywood and Marcus Garcia. I'm about to talk a little bit about some Marcus Garcia in a few days and around Texas, but both big road grader, physical athletic guys. So Denton Ryan could bring it. And then you had Geyer in a big game, big win over Allen, giving them their first district loss. Geyer pulls it out 24-18. Allen's coming on, so get ready to talk about those Eagles in the playoffs. And there was another one, Euless Trinity. We haven't talked about Euless Trinity a whole lot, but they've got some nice wins in non-district, and that's a proud program with a lot of history and tradition that's starting to make a move this fall. They've been really strong all year. They got a great ground attack. The O-line and D-line are what you expect out of a Euless Trinity team, and they beat Crowley, who's a very, very formidable opponent, one of the best in that district. They beat them 77-34. I mean, just really took it to them. The Trinity Trojans are going to be one to watch.
Yeah, I had an interesting week. It was kind of high school football with a baseball game sandwiched in the middle on Friday night, but I spent the entire weekend in the city of Houston. Started on Thursday night at Del Mar Stadium, Houston Heights, taking on Houston Westbury, and mainly there to see the junior class at Heights. Reggie McNeil Jr., Zaylen Cormier, Devin Ferris at offensive tackle. They've even got a young sophomore running back kind of athlete, Rayshawn Mitchell. They all stood out. I mean, it was a blowout win, 62-0. I again had a running clock. Reggie McNeil Jr., I believe he was 14-19 for 248 yards and 4 touchdowns and about a quarter and a half of play.
My
Took an
goodness.
awkward kind of fall on a scramble where he got a first down and hit his head on the turf and kind of rolled his ankle, and the coaching staff just decided, hey, at that point, no sense in pushing anything. But Houston Heights, I believe, locks up a playoff spot
There you
there
go.
for Coach Dixon, and so the HISD got some teams that are going to potentially be a problem in the playoffs when you look at Heights and then Houston Lamar, who has just rolled through everybody down there. So interesting night. Well, it was really good to see Reggie McNeil Jr. play. Recruiting stock starting to grab hold a little bit. It'll be interesting to see if he's like one of these kids where once the first offer pops, the rest of them come in. He's been on visits to A&M and Alabama and Mississippi State, and he's wearing some Colorado gear there on Friday night. But I really like Zaylen Cormier, man. Like I like him at safety. He's made a ton of plays at wide receiver. He came over from Maid Creek last year, and he had just a sensational touchdown grab to start the scoring the other night over the defender and then kind of weaved his way around him for a touchdown. So two guys there at Houston Heights, skill position players that I'm really interested to see, get taken off. And then Devin Ferris he's a legit 6'6", 280-pound tackle. And when we talked about that 2025 class so much, and that's a kid that gets overlooked. He's got 3 offers right now. And he's not one of the guys that gets talked about a lot because just the depth of talent at tackle in that class is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, and then on Friday had U of H and A&M baseball scrimmage. And so I stayed in Houston for a big-time district showdown on Saturday night at Turner Stadium in Humble. Atascocita in overtime beat C.E. King 28-21. C.E. King scores the first 2 touchdowns of the game. They're out 14-0. And they had the ball, Jason. They were facing a 4th and 6 or so from the 30-yard line. They decided they're going to go for it. That's kind of no man's land in high school football. An incomplete pass, and then that's all Atascocita needed to get a foothold in the game, because if they convert there, I mean, they're going in for a 21-0 lead, and who knows what happens at that point. But Atascocita gets the stop. They march down the field and score the next play, the first play of the next possession, strip sack, scoop and score, tie game. Atascocita scored 3 touchdowns in the final 1 minute and 40 seconds of game time at the end of the first half. They scored on the last play on the first half on a huge pass from Zion Brown to Cameron Glenn, 66 yards to put them ahead at halftime. C.E. King ties the game in the fourth quarter. They have the ball. They're moving. They're inside the 20-yard line. They get it down inside the 10. There's about 2 minutes left. Atascocita is forced to use their timeout so they can get the ball back. On a 3rd and goal play from about the 7, C.E. King quarterback Darius Clark James gets on a quarterback draw, gets inside the 1-yard line. Okay. Atascocita calls their last timeout. C.E. King decides they're going to go for it. Instead of kicking the real short field goal, they're going to try to punch it in. And the QB sneak gets stuffed at the 1-yard line to essentially send the game to overtime. And in overtime, the first play, Atascocita scores. It's that same combination, Zion Brown and Cameron Glenn. And then on the flip side, so C.E. King has to score to remain in the ball game. The first play is a screen pass that gets intercepted by USC commit Braylon Conley to end the game. And, that was a really eye-catching scoreline. It's not because C.E. King's a bad football team. They're actually a really good football team. They got some sophomores that are going to be on our watch list big time coming up. That was my first time seeing them play. But it was interesting because they may have caught Atascocita in a look-ahead spot, and we'll talk about who they've got this coming up week. But that district, man, is a monster. It is just those 4 teams at the top, they're as close as they've ever been. And I thought, I picked Atascocita to get out of that region in 6A this year. And we'll learn a lot more. We learned a lot about them last week in terms of their resolve. But they're going to play a lot cleaner game if they're going to take a W this week and then make a run at the state championship. So it was really interesting. And I do have one more score I do want to point out.
All right.
Katie Taylor upsets Katie Jordan. That's a huge win for Coach Herman and the Katie Taylor Mustangs, when I think that just about cements their place in a playoff. That Katy district outside of Katy High is a complete and total mess right now. But Katie Jordan plays Tompkins this week. I'll be at that game, but that could be for a playoff spot. So it is all hands on deck for both of those teams, and Katie Jordan trying to get healthy. But that was the biggest surprise in the city of Houston to me last week was Katie Taylor beating Katie Jordan, and also Cy Falls beating Cy Springs, the first loss of the season for Cy Springs. Coach Brister and Cy Falls starting to play really, really well. So that's another team in Northwest Houston to keep an eye out for. In that Bridgeland, Cy Fair area, Cy Falls kind of quietly making a run there under Coach Brister. What else you got, Jason? Have you scheduled your games for this week?
Yes, I've got. I want to throw a few top performances out there before we
Okay.
go move on to next week. But running back Deontay Dean, Lake Highlands, um, he had a monster performance and another win. 21 carries, 276 yards, and 3 touchdowns for 7-6A leader, right up there with Highland Park right now. In that 7-6A district. Great season so far for Lake Highlands. And then Edward Griffin, 2025 quarterback out of Coppell, 15 of 22, 273 and 4 touchdowns.
Undefeated Coppell.
Man, Coppell, they're rolling strong, man. That's a district everybody had pinned for Louisville, and I mean Louisville's not bad, but Coppell's rolling. They're looking really good as playoff time comes around. But this week I'll be at Longview Pine Tree. See Dalen Evans. Get a little chance to check him out in action against Mount Pleasant. And after last week's win by Pine Tree over Hallsville, this sets up a matchup for playoff spots. These two are tied in district play, and whoever wins this, really sets themselves up for a chance at the playoffs. Which I don't know when the last time Pine Tree went to the playoffs, but I'm pretty
Wow.
sure it's been a while.
It was probably 3 or 4 years ago because I do know that they played Nederland, I believe, in the
Okay.
first round not too long ago. But it has been like it's few and far between for them. And I did, since you're talking about East Texas and schools named Mount, I did want to shout out a big performance, and I highlighted in this week in Bronny's Best. 2026 Mount Enterprise running back Kagan Ash, 35 rushes, 508 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, 5 2-point conversions in a 74-60 win over Carlisle. So I love East Texas football. I especially love small town East Texas football. So when a kid does something like that, we need to make sure that we highlight it. But Jason, this week across the state is full of absolute just incredible games. Let me read off some of these games for you real quick.
All right.
So we're looking Allen at Prosper, Iowa Colony, Bay City, Duncanville, DeSoto, North Shore, Atascocita, South Lake Carroll, Byron Nelson. That's a battle of unbeaten. CE King, Summer Creek, Port Arthur Memorial, Barbers Hill. I mean, the list goes on. McKinney at Denton Geyer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a loaded week for high school football matchups across the state. I did want to shout out, and because I mentioned my Thursday game and my Friday game, I'm staying local, but I did want to shout out the Lorena Leopards upset Franklin last week in Franklin State winning streak, the longest winning streak in the state of Texas, I believe at 39 games. An incredible run for Coach Fenn and the Lions. And what a win for Lorena is that region, man, is going to be topsy-turvy. That 3A Division I Region 3 is full of really, really good teams. And Lorena comes into Franklin and pulls off the upset and now has the inside track to that district championship over the back-to-back state champions. Incredible job by Lorena. And like I said, what a run for Coach Fenn and the Lions. But Thursday night, I mentioned Katie Taylor versus Katie Jordan. That's where I'll be. Friday night, right down the road, A&M Consolidated hosting College Station again for potentially a district championship. College Station undefeated. I believe Consol only has 1 district loss. So if Consol is able to pull this upset, then things kind of get a little weird with tiebreakers and stuff like that. So looking forward to that one, man. It's been a while since I've covered this local College Station rivalry. So it's always good if I can just drive down the road and see a really good ball game. And so interested to see how Coach Huff's Coach Pryor. Coach Huff is up there in your area now at Decatur. Coach Pryor's group against first-year head coach Brandon Schmidt and A&M Consolidated.
No doubt. Well, hey, I'm going to throw a curveball in here. You want to pick a few winners just real quick? I mean, like you said, there's some big matchups out there this week.
You got games? You got a list?
Well, I mean, you threw out a few, and I know you got maybe
All
a
right,
couple
let me
more
run
down
down
there in
some.
Houston.
Yeah, let me
Um,
run down some Dallas ones. Do
all
you
right,
have
well,
games?
I've got,
Okay, go
okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
All right, I'll throw it out. Just first instinct, man. Let's Duncanville at DeSoto,
Duncanville.
11-6A. I'm
Duncanville.
I absolutely. I'm right there with you. Um, and Denton Geyer hosting McKinney.
I like McKinney.
I'm gonna say this, man. McKinney's kind of been a little bit. They've been playing with fire lately. I'm gonna go with Denton Geyer at home.
Well, you would be the one to listen to there. I'm just going off gut feel there.
Absolutely. Mansfield Timberview at Richland. These are two undefeated teams. Timberview,
I
I
like
think, scored
Timberview.
80 something points last
Yep.
week and made some pretty big news around here.
I like the T Wolves. Let me go with them.
All right, all right. What I think I know the reffing crew that got both of these teams in the last few weeks. Man. I I think Richland could pull off the upset. It's going to be a close one. But and yeah, and then I'll throw out South Lake Carroll at Byron Nelson.
See, I don't know anything about Nelson, but I mean, I know the pedigree at South Lake Carroll. You said their quarterback's playing much better. I'll go with Coach Riley Dodge and the Dragons.
I tend to agree. This is going to be at Byron Nelson. Byron Nelson, the last few years, I mean, that offense has been playing great ball. They could put up a lot of points, and they have a ton of playmakers on the defensive side of the ball as well. But South Lake Carroll, they just there's something in that, especially in district play, that they tend to get it done.
All right. Well,
So
let me give you a couple in Houston then.
all
Go
right,
Atascocita, North Shore.
got to go North Shore.
Yep. And I think if I had more data, I haven't seen North Shore play yet
Yeah,
this year. And if I had a better idea of kind of how Caleb Bailey has rebounded, they've been in some dogfights too. Not been the typical North Shore where they just blast everybody. I think it'll be close, but I would give the edge. It's at North Shore. I'll give the edge to the Mustangs there. And then one we didn't talk about, Willis at the Woodlands.
ooh. Man, and Lagway has been playing some ball. I
Yep.
think I got to go with Willis.
I think there's going to be a lot of points scored there. I think the Woodlands would like for it to be a, ground attack with Mabry Mettauer and Keandrea Barker and take their shots when they can. They got a big offensive line. Maybe they can slow the game down a little bit. But, Willis and Coach Miller, they're going to try to score on every play until the clock hits zero. I think Willis wins in a shootout and really opens some eyes because, they've been kind of cruising through their teams that, haven't historically been very good, and they've been blasting everybody. They put up a big number against the Woodlands. That's going to open some eyes about them being a real contender to come out of that Region 2 now because North Houston goes up to Region 2 and will
Yeah,
play a lot of those Dallas teams. So I think this would be a big statement win for Willis. And like you said, DJ Lagway has been on fire this year. So, all right, well, great slate of games. Great slate of games. Looking forward to it. And we will be out on the road. I think Cade, our assistant, will be on Thursday night. He'll be at Conroe at Shenandoah to see the Woodlands versus Willis, and then he will actually be at North Shore Atascocita. So he's
there you
got a
go.
really busy week. And Jason and I will be out on the road as well. So as much coverage as we can possibly bring you. We always thank you for tuning into the show, and thanks to our sponsor, Academy. Don't forget about that giveaway that they're doing. Make sure you get registered at academy.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the TexAgs High School Football Show.